Hey everyone, update on Bitcoin as we have had a massive crash in the last week and now we are staring at some of these lower targets that we had in mind for the early part of the year as our worst case scenario. So let's stay tuned and I'll tell you where I'm looking at buying into Bitcoin in the next 2 to 6 weeks. And although there is no evidence to suggest that the bottom is in just yet, I do think that we are very close, as we have spoken about Q4 being the ultimate bottom for Bitcoin, and that's why we've been following the 4-year cycle the closest out of anything to give us the most accurate historical date range for where Bitcoin may bottom. As well as showing you what's happening on the short time frame, I'm going to show you where I'm buying in the next 2 to 4 weeks, where I think Bitcoin is likely to bottom. So if that sounds good to you, like and subscribe to the channel, and let's get straight into it. So on the short time frame, we spoke about $17,500, this area that I've marked out here, as a massive important level. And if we break that level, even some levels before that at about $18,500, then we are likely heading down to that next most important order block of price support, which is somewhere between 13.8K and 12.5K. I was long the market in spot positions over here at about $21,000, but I said as soon as we lose $20,000, we are likely to be falling down, and I don't want to be part of that. And that's exactly the reason why I had to sell up here. And I said that if we lose that and we lose 18.4K, we're likely going to move down below into those lower targets. And I also said very specifically that if we do move lower, it has to be something that is very quick and violent, because Bitcoin is essentially running out of time to put in a bottom. And that's exactly what we got. Some sort of black swan event, which ultimately you could say in the charts was always going to happen. I was thinking that the 50-day moving average was likely going to support Bitcoin, and maybe if we didn't have this whole debacle with FTX and what was happening in the market, we might have actually pushed up to about that $25,000 level, as CPI came out really positive last week. But obviously crypto has to do crypto things, and yeah, you have to play it level by level. And you know what we're seeing at the minute is a continued drawdown down to those lower targets, because at this moment in time, Bitcoin looks bearish. Weekly close has closed really significantly down here at 16.3K, and there's nothing to suggest over here, if you look left, that there's any price action to support Bitcoin at current levels. And I expect this to be fairly short-lived, because if we just look over here to the left, the next area of support that we're going to get is likely going to be here at about 13.8K, which is the start of the order block before we got the up move that broke the market structure. And within that, if we just take another look to the left, within that, you can see that more specifically, what I'm looking at is this level here at about 12.5K as quite an important level, because this is ultimately the last untested order block, okay, before we moved up higher, okay, onto these new all-time highs. And as we are pretty close to the bottom, there or thereabouts, I am expecting this area to have a very good chance of getting retested. Not much lower than that, in my opinion. And remember, order blocks, when we come down and retest them, are basically areas of price action that have supported us in the past, okay, essentially like price ranges, right? But what are the most important ones, and the ones that provide really interesting and obvious support, are the untested order blocks. So for example, you can see here that when we came up in 2021, we came back down supported by this order block, which is the down candle before the up move that breaks the market structure. We come down here, retest, and then move up higher. And the second time we come down, right, it's no longer very strong support, because we've already tested this order block, and once we move down and past these levels, we are likely to move lower. So similar things are happening here, right, in that I'm expecting if we got a pretty good level of price support at $20,000 from this small area of price support, which is essentially 2 really small weekly red candles, the real price support and the real liquidity is going to be somewhere over here at about 13.8K. And I'm expecting some bullish structures to form here if we can reach there. And really, I would imagine some stop losses and deviations going all over the place that are going to look something like this, and it's really going to take and chop a lot of people out. But ultimately, for me, this is my ultimate buy zone and my last buys that I'm going to be getting in for Bitcoin. Coincidentally, we are also in this descending channel, okay, which is our long-term bearish channel that we've been in, and you can see that we've had 4 touch points here, or 3 touch points. And if we move down and come and retest this line again, that time and price range wouldn't be, out of line with some of the prices that we've just spoken about at about 13.8k, okay, and about 12k. So definitely an area of price action that I'm looking at. And on the short-term time frame, you can see that it's the main area that we are going to be taking an eye on is about 17.6k, where you can see that we basically came down and we now flipped the area that we broke down from at 17.5k, which was support, has now been confirmed as resistance for at least the short term, where we come up, retested, and now we are basically grinding our way down lower. And as far as we can tell at this moment in time, we are probably just going to be flagging and forming some sort of continuation pattern to move lower, because like I said, there's no volume here. Look at the VPVR, right? There is literally no volume here on the high time frames, okay? You can see that we've got very low volume here, and the next area of volume that we're probably going to support us at these levels is going to be somewhere here at about 12,000, as you can see that, right? So let's keep an eye on that. My advice to you here would be stay diligent, have some cash stacked on the side, okay, and wait for this thing to just play out, at least give you some sort of confirmation of, some sort of buys or buy into a big area of support. I wouldn't blindly be buying now, just because this is like, really, really low prices, okay, and although I can't argue with these prices in the long term, okay, for me, I'm going to be waiting. There's also some interesting Fibonacci targets here which line up for some of these major waves, and you can see that the 1.618 is coming in pretty close to about that 13k, 14k level. So we might get some kind of wicks down here, and like I said, because the 4-year cycle, we're expecting a bottom at Q4 this year. Let's basically be diligent that any dip that comes up from now could well be the bottom. You have to also be open to that, okay? So any price levels that we are forming lower lows, okay, and especially when we move down to this red box, is a really, really important area and zone that I'm looking at for us to be forming a bottom. The only thing that would make me change my mind on this in the short term is if we were able to reclaim $19,000, okay, on high time frame, ideally on the weekly, and we get some kind of weekly reversal. It has to happen really quick. If we move up to 19.8k, we move back into the range, this would probably have to happen this week, in my opinion, because these moves don't typically come down and then loiter and then come back up and just loiter at low volume, okay? It has to be something that is very quick and instantaneous, but that looks at this very moment in time very unlikely. So the momentum is to the downside, and it does look to me like 15.5k is not the low. So let's wait for those lowest price targets, in my opinion, of about 14k. So we either take some kind of trade, in my opinion, at about 19k if we can close above these levels, which looks unlikely. If we don't manage to do that, then the bias is going to be to the downside, and look for buys at about 14 to 13, $12,000 for areas of support. And in some ways, like I said, it's a little bit of a shame, because if we didn't have the news with the FTX, we might well have moved on to those $25,000 levels, because the DXY did exactly to the T what we said right up here last week in my last video. We said we're still looking for continuation of the dollar to basically potentially move lower, because we were starting to form some of these deviations, okay, and starting to form some kind of like distribution patterns over here on the 4-hour time frame. And we said that where we're looking to go down to $106. It's just a bit of a shame that as soon as we hit the 106, that was not the catalyst to send Bitcoin up. It was actually wasn't the catalyst to send it down, but would have been market conditions that would have been favorable had we not had FTX. My advice to you also here would be to hold Bitcoin or stack some cash on the side, okay? I wouldn't be going too altcoin heavy, because I'm still looking for Bitcoin dominance to still gain some strength. I know I've been beating this for like a dead horse for quite a long time and quite a while, but I am looking for Bitcoin to be a big player, especially in times of uncertainty. Definitely the better one for me to hold. And if I look at the other major alts, including like ETH BTC, for me, this just looks like a potential distribution here, where every time we get up to these SAT levels of about $7,500, we seem to see some sort of price rejections, okay? And currently we might be doing just that again. So for me, this is too early to be jumping into altcoins and stuff like Ethereum, because for me it's too overvalued versus BTC. So I'm still looking to accumulate and stack Bitcoin rather than altcoins. That time will come, but I just don't think that time is here. So I hope you got some value and some clarity with what I'm doing in the market. And also don't forget to take your coins off exchanges that you are not using. Anything that is there for the long term, like Bitcoin or any cash that you're holding, better to keep it on the side in a cold hardware wallet, just in case your exchange does a rug pull on you and goes bankrupt and takes all your money. Not a good thing, especially if you've lasted the bear market this far. So hopefully that is all good for you, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.